The best of Money Matters. The Big Story.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Hongbin, Jeong. Singapore and Malaysia have signed a deal to establish the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone after multiple delays as the two nations seek to develop a new economic growth area centered on one of the busiest land crossings in the world. Modeled after China's Shenzhen Special Economic Zone, the JS-SEZ will provide tax breaks and ease the transit of goods and people between Johor and Singapore, which are separated by a kilometer causeway. The target of this agreement is to hit 100 projects in the first 10 years, creating 20,000 skilled jobs for people on both sides of the causeway. Now, is this an achievable target, and what benefits will this SEZ bring to both nations? Well, to find out more, joining us today is Sumit Agarwal, who is the Low Tuck Kwong Distinguished Professor of Finance at the Business School and a Professor of Economics and Real Estate at the National University of Singapore. Professor, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Professor, now, Malaysia and Singapore, they have kicked off the much-awaited Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone. To give us a little bit of a context, what is the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, and what benefits does it entail for both countries?
Yeah, so it's an arrangement basically across two countries to allow a mobility of labor easily, to allow technology to move freely, to allow economic growth and prosperity to happen for both countries. These are not new. I mean, this has been done across the world. Many countries, across countries or within a country, cities have tried it, and they really work if they're done properly. Now, in the context of Singapore and Malaysia, this has been in the works because there are gains to be had, both for Singapore and Malaysia. And the gains, as I mentioned, is clearly there could be economic growth benefits that could be seen across for Johor and Singapore. There could be labor, essentially a huge amount of labor will be employed, around, say, 20,000 new employees that will be created. So you can see a lot of benefits. And we have seen, when we have seen these deals happen around the world, there are hiccups. But in the long run, they actually start working and actually delivering key benefits in terms of trade, in terms of innovation, in terms of lower taxes, in terms of economic development, house prices going up, and other things.
I see. Well, does this agreement truly benefit both countries equally, or is there one country that benefits more than the other through this agreement?
Hard to say at this point, but if I'm going to guess, typically these kind of agreements benefit differentially across different domains. For instance, in terms of technological innovation, what could happen is Singapore will benefit more, okay? But maybe in terms of labor, and it could be the benefits could be more lopsided towards Malaysia because there's more labor that really would like to join, and there could be cheaper educated labor that can come and take part in this economic zone. But the technology will be brought in and kind of harnessed and benefited, and we will see more foreign direct investment coming in, and that will benefit the Singapore side. So it's not about who benefits more or equally. I think the shares will be depending on what kind of input is going in and who is putting in that input.
I see. So there is a bit of a compromise there. But, this agreement comes after multiple delays as the two nations sought to develop a new economic growth area centered on one of the busiest land crossings in the world. So, Professor, what was the cause of the delays, and what finally made these two nations pull through to reach an agreement?
I mean, look, it is in the best interest of both countries to do this, but delays happen because disagreements, policy disagreements. It could be, you have to iron out how much labor can be moved, what will happen to taxes, who will lower the taxes, by how much, which companies will benefit, the companies, if they actually create IP, who will actually get the intellectual property rights of those IP? Will they go equally to both countries? This is about creating unicorns. And if you're creating a unicorn like Grab or others, Singapore clearly has been saying, look, this is something we created. Now, if you create it in an economic zone, there will be gains to be had. And how do you divide those gains across these countries? And you have to iron these things out. You can't just say, let's do it, then you realize later, we forgot to cross those T's and dot those I's. And then you have problems and disagreements.
I see. Well, with the laid out agreements so far, does this agreement kind of live up to expectations, you think?
I mean, this is just the first step. These agreements will eventually, as things solidify, as we see progress. I mean, the first thing we will want to see is there foreign direct investment coming in? Are investors, private equity guys or hedge funds or others who see the value in this economic zone, and are they willing to put in money? There could be public-private partnership where governments put in some money, they give all these tax benefits, and the private sector says, oh, I'm going to set up shop. And they have an ambitious target of 100 companies over a 10-year. Now we want to see in the first year, do we get a bite of 5 to 10 companies that are setting up shop, and how much labor are they going to hire? Or are they going to depend more on technology and less on labor? And then maybe one country might say, oh, we were expecting labor to be a major factor, and now we are not seeing that, and we need to rejigger the contracts.
I see. Well, the target is to facilitate the expansion of 50 projects in the first 5 years and then hit 100 projects in the first 10 years. At the same time, 20,000 skilled jobs for people on both sides are expected to be created. Now, is this an achievable target, you think, or is it an ambitious target of attracting 100 projects in 10 years?
I mean, it's not ambitious, but, hiccups can happen. As I said, we need everything to be aligned and everything to go in the right direction for us to achieve this kind of a target. We may create 100 companies, but only maybe 10 will survive. Then have we technically achieved the target, but we have failed. In the big objective is to create this zone where, technology, labor, investments are freely moving around. So I think the target is not about 100 companies. It's about successful 100 companies that are going to be living and breathing and creating economic growth, prosperity, investment, and labor jobs for a long time to come.
I see. Well, how will this in turn impact businesses, SMEs, and the overall economy on both sides of the Causeway?
Yeah, so this is another question. A lot of times these kind of zones create inequality. What could happen is if they create net benefit for society, it's very good. But what could happen, a company was going to relocate to JB anyway or to Singapore anyway. Now they realize I'm going to get tax benefit if I relocate to the zone. So now what happens is they relocate in the zone, but now we have losses because in Singapore generally, let's say if that company was going to locate in the CBD. Now CBD lost that business, and that business went to this economic zone. So we have to worry about the inequalities this kind of zones that can create for SMEs and other businesses in the area.
I see. Well, with the JS-SEZ also reportedly operating on a so-called project-by-project basis, Professor, how will this help attract more investments? What advantages are offered to these investors?
So typically there will be tax benefits because they will be given cheaper land. The taxes that they will be charged on operating these businesses will be at a lower rate. Maybe there will be ability of labor mobility, so they don't need to necessarily hire Singaporean labor, which may be slightly more expensive. They could hire Malaysian labor that is cheaper. As I said from the beginning, the benefits could be lopsided in labor for Malaysia and technology for Singapore and investment for Singapore. So I think this is how we will see how this plays out and how companies take advantage of it. Now the question is which kind of companies? I can imagine technology companies coming in aggressively, maybe because the companies that are investing in sustainable future will be coming in and realizing and taking advantage of the tax benefits and government commitments both from Singapore and Malaysia.
I see. Well, Professor, according to the Singapore Business Federation last year, over 9 in 10 Singapore firms were keen to invest in the proposed SEZ in Johor. However, the report also outlined that most of the businesses were anticipating concerns relating to sourcing skilled and technical workers there, congestion at the land crossings, delaying the movement of people and goods, as well as difficulty in handling tax issues. Will these concerns deter businesses away, or can we still see more Singapore businesses going to Johor due to the SEZ and vice versa?
See, Singapore has actually been very efficient in dealing with all these things that you just outlined. And Singapore has been a very model country in attracting businesses because they can resolve these issues, labor issues, tax issues, investment issues, attracting direct investment. So I think this has been already thought out that, look, there will be issues, But Singapore will try to streamline this either through less administration, less red tape, more technology, and allowing Malaysia to learn how to kind of leapfrog across these hurdles that you typically see in developing countries.
Are there any plans by both the government to alleviate some of the concerns that the businesses have?
Clearly, I think both countries must have already talked to the business bureaus, and they have listened to them carefully. And part of the delays you can imagine, but also to kind of iron out some of the concerns the businesses have. Because, it will be very sad if the first year we don't see around 10 businesses. So they would have made sure that at least 10 businesses have said, okay, we are going to come in if you set the right kind of temperament for us or the right environment for us. And so they said, okay, let's work on the environment, and we get 10 businesses, so we already see success.
I see. Well, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong has said that the project is an important one that will build on, the complementary strengths of Singapore and Johor, while Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim called it a unique initiative, adding that very rarely you find two countries working together as a team. So what does this agreement mean for bilateral relations between the two nations?
Yeah, clearly, this is a good step. I mean, typically when you have neighbors, even if you're living across the same apartment building, your neighbors, you don't get along because their plant is crossing over to your plant, and then you don't like them very much, or other things crop up. So when you actually work together towards benefiting societies of both nations, it's a great thing. And I think this is what both leaders were saying, that, look, we see benefit for industries, for labor, for the population, house prices. So there is a win-win for everybody, countries, the labor, the corporate sector, the society in general.
I see. Can this agreement lead to more collaborations and agreements between Singapore and Malaysia then?
I mean, in theory, yes. But, let's hope that this kind of goes very well in the first 3 years. Because if we see 30, 35 companies start up and be successful in this zone, and actually reap benefits for society, labor especially, and investment and other factors, and house prices and consumption and economic growth, then we can start thinking, okay, what other areas are there to cooperate and actually create benefits on both sides of the aisle.
I see. Well, going forward, Professor, what are some of the challenges that remain as we see how this SEZ plays out?
I mean, one of the challenges that I pointed out earlier is typically about inequality that this can create. Okay, and so will there be losers because of this, because businesses will choose to go here and not choose to go elsewhere within JB or in Singapore? But the other things could be about labor, because if businesses take advantage of this zone and push the role of technology, AI, heavily and leave the labor behind, then there could be challenges in terms of ramping up the ability of labor to be integrated in this zone. There could be other things, because the zones typically create congestion. They create huge inequalities in house price growth in these regions and depression of house prices in other regions. So I think these are the things we have to worry about. Is what will happen in the next 3 to 5 years. We already had huge congestion crossing the two countries. Right. Now, will this actually add to it, and frustration across people? And when we are having actually trucks move around with huge, cargo, will that be a problem?
I see. And before we let you go here, was there anything left out of the agreement that you wished was included? What more could have been achieved?
I mean, I think it was delayed. So clearly they thought about it quite a while. So I don't know if I could add anything at this point. But I think we will see. If you ask me the same question in a year, we will see how it plays out. And then we can say, okay, this is how we can tweak it. Not necessarily add it, or we should have added it. Because, many times we don't know how things pan out.
I see. Well, thank you so much, Professor, for your time and your insights today.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Sumit Agarwal, who is a Lot Tak Kwong Distinguished Professor of Finance at the Business School and a Professor of Economics and Real Estate at the National University of Singapore. This has been The Big Story with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.